Society if. The question passed around the internet for years. So many situations like this one, or this one, but I wanted to give you a new one today. What if society was so perfect? You have an upgraded version of C-3PO that you can customize their voice and personality to your vibe. You're a Nepo baby whose grandfather runs the entire system of the city and society, with a couple enforcers that are a bit obsessive. You never worry about money or safety or even doing your damn hair. This life sounds pretty good, but you start to hate it. Nothing is challenging, everything is being handed to you, so you get curious and set off to figure out the truth behind this bullshit utopia. This is Ergo Proxy. Amy Lee, our main character is an investigator, and she starts to investigate her own life in Romodo, from her assistant, family, friends, and this random motherfucker named Vincent. Now, Vincent is a very well-written character in my opinion. He has a lot of layers, he has a lot of thoughts, is going through many arcs, I think, throughout each episode in my opinion. He has so much development in the entirety of this series. I think Vincent as a whole has a lot of depth to him. We're first introduced to Vincent at the beginning of the series where he's just kind of this bum worker and he doesn't really seem like much, but as the story continues, he really develops as a character, and I think his development is something that I've really appreciated through this series. I also think his clumsiness and wittiness and trying to be funny and nice to people and just always kind also plays in a good contrast with the rest of his layers of his personality. Could be the funny, silly guy at one moment, and then the next moment he is just trying to get a grip of who he is. Now, what makes Vincent even more interesting is his connection with the way they contrast and play off themselves is very interesting. With each moment that they share together is either a very emotional moment or a very tense moment. They play off each other in such a way that each time they're face to face, we don't know what's going to happen. We know they're going to talk, but after the talking is done, what will happen next? Is a very serious person. She comes off almost too serious at sometimes and more important than she actually is, but at the same time, she is the investigator at the Bureau of Security, who is also directly under entourage system that her grandfather created. Now, her view of this world that her grandfather created comes out in a lot of different ways, either in frustration or pure indulgence. Her getting her house torn down and just moving into a new house within hours, or having her entourage do her hair and makeup. But what this entourage system does is that decreases the challenge of things. We could see in the first episode that she's getting tired of how unchallenging things are. As time goes on and we get glimpses of things outside of this world and things inside of this world, we are met with many layers of how this system was created, and it makes more intrigue to find out the truth, even if it goes against her grandfather's wishes. Now, the experience of watching the show was very interesting to me. I would not be able to just watch one episode. I'd have to at least watch 2 to 3. Each episode leaves you wondering, and they each feel like their own mini stories. You could just watch one episode and be like, okay, that's one part of the story in the grander scheme of things, but because it leaves you wondering and questioning what's happening behind the scenes of everything, or what's going to happen next to this character, or what's going to happen with this plot, you keep watching. There's not an ending point because you haven't found the answers you're looking for. And that also ties into how she views the world. Now, in the beginning, doesn't seem very content with the system, but from what we can gather, she's been in this system for a very long time, most of her life even. She doesn't know anything different. She only knows what she's experienced in this safety, security, unchallenging environment. But now that she's an adult and she's starting to see things differently, and there's things not adding up that are coming up and she's witnessing, she needs to know more. She needs to find her answer. In the first episode, you can tell that she's looking at the world like with complete disdain. She doesn't like this shit. I think this shit is repulsive. There's no challenge. There's no meaning behind all this. It's just the same monotonous things over and over and over and over. It feels like something's missing. There's things not being told to her, so she has to investigate it. She witnesses something she wasn't supposed to, something that her grandfather has kept a secret for a very long time. This makes her curious, so curious that she's willing to risk her ties to this environment, this society, and her family to get the answer. The answer is going to shift her reality significantly. Now, her reality has been very secure up until this point, but to get the truth that she wants, she's going to need to let go of that reality and then enter a new one, the one that's under this utopia. This utopia has provided her with never to worry about any type of danger, really. No starving, no illness, always being checked up by a medic who is also a close friend. Now that she wants to realize the truth about everything and how everything came to be, her reality itself has to change, and change entirely. She can't be the same that she was when she first started. She herself has to change throughout this. And throughout this journey, I think her as a character and her development, alongside Vincent's, changes significantly, but she finds a deeper meaning for why this is all happening, and not being bored with the city and feeling understimulated or under challenged while being in the back of a car where her entourage, aka her assistant, just drives her around. She actually finds a meaning for herself rather than just being a cog in a system, which is another theme I find many times in the series, that there's a belief that each one of them are just cogs in this grander machine, which is the society, the utopia of safety and security. But I believe that as she finds out more, she realizes she can't just be a cog in a machine. She realizes, and even asks people who are close to her, who knew the truth beforehand, if they knew prior. And this changes her dynamics with her friends, family, people she was close to. Again, like changing her life and personality as the series goes on. Her development as a character is something I do appreciate, because she goes from someone who is very ignorant in a sense to someone who wants deeper meaning and more value out of this life rather than just indulging with what's there. The one thing I do admire about is that once she's confronted with the truth of things, she doesn't steer away, she doesn't look away at it, she faces it on head on, face forward, looking at the truth, and decides, what am I going to do with this? How am I going to react, and where am I going to go from here? And I think that's a very admirable thing to see in a character.